Hey, before we get started on this episode, obviously you saw the news. Queen Elizabeth has passed away, and this does impact the boxing world. The Claressa Shields-Savannah Marshall card was taking place in the UK. It has since been postponed. A chunk of this episode is spent talking about that fight. It is postponed. It's not canceled. We will get to it at some point. Just thought I should let you guys know that. Enjoy the show. On this episode of Inside Boxing Live, a new era begins. What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Inside Boxing Live, presented by John Boy Media. And today I am simply one half of Inside Boxing Live, Dan Canobio, as always. And this is a big day for the show as we bring in the newest permanent co-host of Inside Boxing Live. He's a former WBO junior lightweight champion, former ISKA kickboxing champion, two-time best-selling author. He'll outcook you 7 days of the week and twice on Sunday. Best hair in the game. If you don't know who I'm talking about by now, it's Chris Algieri, and he's the newest co-host. Welcome, Chris, to Inside Boxing Live. Welcome to the John Boy Media family. Very excited to kick off this new era of Inside Boxing Live.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something we've been talking about for a while, and we're here. Today's the day, and we're going to be talking boxing from now until the end of time.
Yes, there's so much to talk about too. But first, how does it feel to join the burgeoning John Boy Media empire? This is the only boxing podcast here. It's a baseball-centric company. I'm teaching these kids slowly but surely that there are fighters that exist outside of Jake Paul. There are some big-time fights. So how does it feel to join the John Boy crew?
Man, it's awesome. You know, I came down to the office a couple months back when I was in New York, and I was like, oh, this is what the lifeblood of the current media culture is like. I mean, so to be able to join up and bring boxing to the forefront this way, I think is perfect timing.
Tell us what you're up to too. I know a lot of boxing fans enjoy your broadcasting. You're very well regarded on Twitter. I think that means something in the boxing Twitter, because I've been blocking people left and right this week. People are calling me names because I simply said Jake Paul. This is a step up for him. But just tell us what you've been up to. If you're going to fight again, maybe we'll get into that. But what's going on in the broadcasting career, day-to-day life of Chris? Yeah,
like you said, I've been pretty busy with the broadcasting. I really enjoy it. It's something that it takes a lot of reps, like everything else. You know, it's just like boxing. You gotta train. You've got to do your homework. You gotta live it and breathe it. And that's something that I do anyway. So for me, being able to be ringside and for the world to listen to what I have to say, it's a pretty cool gig for someone who used to be just a young little kid watching fights and doing the same thing on my carpet in my living room. But and then in terms of fighting, I mean, I want to fight before the end of the year. You know, I've had some time off. I needed some time off, and now we're back to it. I've been in the gym, so looking forward to what's next.
Wow. So we have a lot of ex-professional athletes at this company. Jerry Blevins played for the Mets, played for the A's. Trevor Plouffe, 100 career home runs for the Minnesota Twins. They're all retired. We don't have anyone that like actively plays. Oh, we do. We have the Jets player with Chris Rose, but just that's a new wrinkle here for John Boy. Like you stepping back into the ring as a podcast host. I don't think that's ever been done in the history of boxing.
No, I mean, hey, I think we're going to be doing a lot of firsts here. So why not start right with that? You know, active fighter, active broadcaster, and podcast host.
A lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats, and you're a Long Islander. So this is two Long Islanders coming together. So if you hear an accent coming through, you might bring it out of me. And
yeah.
So people are gonna go, whoa, where did that come from? All right. So get that all out of the way. Also, yeah, you're working with Matchroom, you're working with Top Rank. So you're so involved in the sport. Love that. We're going to be doing this on later in the week. Of course, on Thursdays, we're going to have some post-fight podcasts. We're going to have some live shows. We're going to be going to fights. A lot of stuff is going to be hitting the John Boy Boxing YouTube page. So go out and subscribe if you have not already. So I'm very excited, man. Let's get into it. I guess we'll talk heavyweights first. It's been that time. It's a good thing, I think, when the heavyweights are at least, well, obviously we want them to fight each other, but when they're just talking about fighting each other, when they're just in the headlines. And right now, Tyson Fury is dominating the headlines as we tape this on Thursday morning. It could change by Thursday afternoon. I think the last I checked Twitter, right before we did this, is that Tyson Fury is giving Anthony Joshua until the end of Thursday to accept a 60-40 split, accept either December 3rd, I think, or November 26th. You know, he's now moved on from Usyk, and now he's looking towards Joshua. Frankly, I think this is like a pretty solid move from Fury, because he probably figures, you know what, Matchroom and AJ aren't going to take this fight, because AJ's coming off of what, 2 consecutive losses, 3 of his last 5. We can get him at a time where we think we can beat him. It's arguably the biggest fight you could possibly make in boxing. If he doesn't take it, I can just sit there and call him out left and right. Oh, you didn't take the fight. You didn't take the fight. If he does take it, I can probably beat him and make a boatload of money. What's your take on this whole situation? Are you shocked that Tyson Fury is out of retirement and he's now calling out Joshua?
No, this is exactly what I expected to happen. I even called it on air because I had the chance to call that fight live, the Usyk Joshua fight. And we were speaking about, all right, well, Tyson Fury is quote unquote retired. I said, no, he's not. He's not going to be retired. I don't think he's going to come back for Usyk, but I do think he's going to come back with Joshua, especially at this stage in the game. I think, one, like you said, boatload of money, huge fight. They do that in Saudi. They do that over there. I mean, the amount of money these guys will make, it'll be the richest fight in history. Secondly, just like you said, timing wise, I think it's an easy fight for Tyson Fury. Not only I think he beats Joshua either way, but I think coming off of 2 losses, coming off of what we saw mentally from Joshua right after the fight, I think Tyson Fury would be a heavy favorite.
Yeah, like I said, like I think he put him in a position where they're like, oh crap, like I don't think Matchroom kind of knew this was coming, because it's like, yeah, we accepted it. We accepted the 60-40. Now they're going back and forth on the dates and whatnot. But yeah, I don't see a path for Joshua to win that fight. I think it comes down to whether Matchroom wants to cash out, sort of say, on Joshua. I still think he's a big draw. He's arguably the biggest draw in boxing.
And he's still a great fighter too. It's you know, like I said, I think Fury's a heavy favorite, but I still think it's a good fight. I'd rather see this fight than Tyson versus Usyk, honestly.
Really?
I just think stylistically the matchup, I think the size difference and the way that Tyson can be a real bully and would need to be in order to neutralize Usyk in that style. I think that makes a very ugly fight. But this fight, I think Joshua is big enough. He's athletic enough. He's got enough power. He can actually contend with Tyson Fury while it lasts. And I think it actually becomes a good scrap.
You don't put anything to, like, let's see some like finality. Let's get a 4-belt champion, first time in the history of the 4-belt era, which I hate saying because that's just like solidifies these 4 organizations. But there's something to like Usyk. It's funny in the heavyweight divisions. Like boxing fans were called first. It was, I want Joshua Wilder. I mean, moved on from that because both guys lost. And then it's like, oh, Fury comes through and he beats Wilder 2 out of 3, arguably 3 out of 3. So now it's, I want to see Fury versus Joshua. Now Joshua loses to Usyk and the fans are like, oh, we got to see Fury versus Usyk now. That in comes Joshua. And it's like, wait a second, like fans do want to see this fight, but it's not the right order. Should the order matter, or should we just see these big fights happen like back in our heyday in the 90s when everyone fought each other and we don't remember the order and how, you know, Holyfield Tyson or Holyfield Bo happened. We just know that it happened.
Well, that's the problem with having so many belts. But I do believe that these particular characters, these fighters, they have transcended those belts. You got guys like Tyson Fury, you got guys like Anthony Joshua, even Wilder. I mean, these guys, they're bigger than life. They're larger than life. Like you said, like the Evander Holyfields and the Lennox Lewis, you know, they were able to get all the belts together, but I don't really care about that. I care about good fights. You know, the belts are the belts. The belts are important. Being the heavyweight champion of the world is important, but I want to see the best fights possible. And I want those historic nights that we've come used to in the 90s and the late 80s.
Well, I like the fact that they're doing it too. They're talking about doing it in the UK. Whether it's going to be rainy and cold there because it's going to be in December. I feel like it's a little rushed. I do want to see it. Like, I'm not one to marinate. Like, I know our friend Chris Mannix put out like something on Twitter. It's like, am I the only one that thinks that this fight should happen like next year? Like Joshua should go on and take on like a Dillian White or Chisora, let Fury go out and fight Usyk, or let Fury go out and fight anyone on the domestic level over in the UK, then build this fight up next spring. But that's the thing with Fury is we have no clue what this guy's going to do next. Our friend Rob Tebbett tweeted this the other day, and I thought this was hilarious. Tyson Fury since April, Chris, KO'd Dillian White, called out Francis Ngannou, retired, kicked a taxi, called out Thor, unretired, Appointed Isaac Lowe as his trainer, called out Chisora, retired again, unretired, vacated the ring belt, punched a WWE wrestler, and now has called out Joshua. Who knows what's going to be the case a year from now if we're going to see Joshua versus Fury? Let's just see what happens, right?
This is why I love Tyson Fury. He's a wild man, but I mean, the guy can fight. So when it comes down to it, you know he's going to bring his A game. I agree with Mannix. I think that they should let this fight marinate a little bit. I think getting Joshua back to his winning ways. He goes back on the UK scene. He knocks out a couple of those UK heavyweight guys. You get the aura back. Tyson Fury has been out of the ring. He gets another win under his belt. Look for it next fall, end of next year. You know, let's make this a real heavyweight clash.
Yeah. How does this play out then? How does this play? Does Joshua take the fight? And if he doesn't, does he even care about, perceived notion that, he ducked Fury? Is Fury actually serious about this? How does this all play out? Because it could play out by the time this hits your podcast feed or YouTube. We can have an answer on this one way or another.
I think they accept it, but I don't think it happens till the spring. It'd be hard pressed to make this happen before the end of the year. There's a lot of buildup for a fight like that. We're already in September. We're going to a 3-month build out for that level of fight. I think it's going to be pushed back to the spring, but I do think it's going to happen.
You think Joshua goes on one of these little world tours that Eddie's talking about, maybe fighting as Eli Zhang, who you called his fight? That's not an easy fight. Fight at Zora, fight at Dillian White, and then, see where the chips fall next year for a Fury and Joshua fight.
I don't. I think Joshua is going to go right to it. I just think it's going to take more time to build and Tyson to come back. But I would prefer if Joshua did that and was able to get a couple fights under his belt, at least one, before going back in there with Fury. Yeah,
I think that's how it's going to play out. I can see it. I could be wrong. I mean, I've said there was no way that Mayweather was ever going to fight McGregor, and money talks. There's a lot of money.
I was with you on that one. I did not call that. I was telling everybody, like, not going to happen, never going to happen. Oop. Dead wrong. Right,
because we're almost programmed as fans, media members. When something like this comes around, it's like unconventional. Like Fury Joshua makes sense, but it is a little unconventional, the timing of it. So when it comes around, my first inkling was, nah, this is Tyson Fury just doing what he does. Like we just illustrated, this is another chapter in the last 6 months of Fury. But who knows? Maybe they'll get into the ring.
You can't leave that much money on the table, though. I mean, that's pulling everybody out of retirement. There's so much money. He's still at the top of his game. He looked great against White, and it wasn't long ago. It's not like he's been out of the ring for 4 years or something. He fought 6 months ago. Leaving that kind of money on the table is asinine.
Well, the other side of it is the Usyk money is all coming from Saudi people. Like that's going to be site fee money. Like he's saying I want 500 million. That's not going to happen. But it's not the same. Like there's more money for the Joshua fight than there is for the Usyk fight. But the Usyk fight's still going to make him a lot of money too, because it's going to come overseas and it's going to come with the site fee and it's going to come with all that. The scene for a Fury Joshua, whether it's at Wembley, whether it's at one of these big soccer stadiums in front of the UK fans, the battle for Britain, I'd love to see it. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. But that's the latest with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. We'll see how that all plays out. Over the weekend, Chris, Andy Ruiz picked up a win. Shout out to me for taking the over 8.5 in the second round when Ortiz hit the deck and his legs he had spaghetti legs. I was like, that's not looking too good. I also took Ruiz by decision, but this isn't about my gambling picks. We'll have gambling picks later in the show though. But Andy Ruiz picks up a win. Deontay Wilder was in attendance. I still think he's taking selfies with fans out at crypto.com arena. But what came out of this is Ruiz is supposed to win this fight. And now Wilder's fighting Helenius October 15th at Barclays. WBC has come in and said the winner of Helenius, Deontay Wilder, will now fight Andy Ruiz to figure out who the number one contender is at heavyweight. I like this. I like that there's some like a path. I like that Andy Ruiz is in there. What do you make of Ruiz's performance? And where do you have him like in your pantheon of heavyweights?
I've been a big fan of Andy Ruiz for a while and actually predicted him giving Joshua hell the first time when Jarrell Miller fell out of that fight. I got asked in Vegas about having Andy Ruiz as the replacement. I was like, that's a tough fight. Stylistically, he's got fast hands, he hits hard, and he's durable. And basically, that's the MO of Andy Ruiz. He's a fun guy to watch. I mean, he looked great against Ortiz. I was really impressed with his ability to to find those shots. He had great precision, great timing, great distance against a guy who's a very good boxer and very good counterpuncher in Ortiz. So I think that was a great performance and definitely puts him right into those upper echelon guys. A fight with Wilder makes a ton of sense.
Huge.
But Wilder has to get by Helenius. Helenius is a tough SOB, man. That guy is big. He's strong. He hits hard. Very interesting fight and not a walkover at all for Wilder. So that it's the heavyweight division. There's always question marks about who's going to end up fighting who. Look where we're at with Usyk and Joshua and Fury. Like Wilder, guys lose all the time. Heavyweights, one punch is all that matters.
Yeah, I think Ruiz, what he has going for him is those fast hands. Like he landed a counter on Ortiz that I didn't even see, and I have a trained eye to count punches. It was so quick, and I think that's what he has going for him. Do I think he can beat Wilder? Probably not, but he has hands. Like that's the thing with Ruiz. I thought he was a little tentative, and that was the reason I picked the over, and that was the reason I picked Ruiz by decision. It's like he has these fast hands, but there's a misnomer about him is that he throws the least amount of punches in the heavyweight division per round. He throws in like the lower 30s because he's in and out. He'll throw a 3-punch combination and then he'll take like 35, 40 seconds up. I don't know if that's conditioning. I don't know if that's his, that's what he's trying to do in there. That's his game plan. But there were times in that Ortiz fight where I wished he just stepped on the gas a little more. He probably would have got a knockout, but in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, you know what, play this cautious. Ortiz still hits like a mule. If I win this fight, I move on to bigger paydays because you try to get the feeling that that Ruiz is in this for the money. The guy likes a party. He likes cars. Like he just wants to keep winning to get bigger paydays. But do you think he should fight, like show a little more urgency in there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's also very durable too. So he's not the kind of guy who takes a lot of punches and goes down again, has ever been knocked out. I mean, he got dropped against Joshua. He got dropped against Chris Arreola. Although that was a bit of a shot behind the head and kind of a weird situation. But I think he can push the action more, especially early on, to try and get these guys out of there. And he's going to need to do that with Wilder. The longer that fight goes, Wilder can knock out a dinosaur at any time. The guy has a cannon for a right hand. So if the fight is on, Wilder can win. And if Ruiz has him hurt early and lets him survive, that's a really bad idea. But stylistically, I think it's a very interesting matchup. Andy Ruiz, he's got those short arms. He's very quick. He covers the distance really well. He's got short punches and he's got a lot of power. If he gets inside on Wilder's going to have no defense for that. Those long arms are not going to help him on the inside at all. So if Andy can get in there and let his hands go, and he's going to have to go for the finish early. Otherwise, I mean, Wilder at length with that right hand, he can knock out anybody.
I'm happy that Wilder's back. Like he has a total disposition to him, totally different. I think he was licking his wounds for a while. He went into a little bit of solitude, and I don't blame him. I mean, 30 rounds with Tyson Fury, took some savage beatings in those rounds. And he's been good. Like he's coming back. He was in great spirits at the pay-per-view on Sunday night. Taking pictures with fans, saying all the right things. I want my second reign. I'm not in this just for one fight. I want to win the world title again. But then you see, he's like, today I checked and I saw that he did an interview. I think it was with Fight Hype, and he's bringing up the loaded gloves again. I think he's just never gonna let that go. Like, I mean, I look at it in two ways. Talking about him with the new attitude and whatnot. I mean, one, it's like, okay, it's good. It seems like he's gotten over it. Now he's back to his winning ways. But two, it's like, did you lose the dog? Like, do you still have that? Like, got that dog in you? You got that dog,
man. Like, are you a nice guy now? Or you just happen to be here now? I don't know. It's a different feeling. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. But when I like Wilder. I like that he's back. I like the bomb squad. I like the screaming, the whole. I love all of that. I don't know if I like nice guy Wilder as much. I like loud and bombastic.
So then you don't have any issues with him bringing up the loaded.
Hey, if it keeps that dog in him, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Think that way. Think that you were cheated. Think that you deserve to be at the top. Think that you're still the best heavyweight in the world. Mentality goes a long way in this sport. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, he made a lot of money. I mean, he made a boatload of money, and it's true. It's like, does he have that still in him, that fire, that desire? He's saying all the right things now. We're going to see on the 15th of October what he has left. If he struggles with Helenius, I think that will say a lot. If he sparks him out inside of 8, or if he knocks him out in any part of the fight, That's going to be huge. That's going to be big. I think I've always said the boxing is a lot more exciting with an active Deontay Wilder. We're going to see October 15th. That's the beauty of the sport, right, Chris? We'll see what he's got in the tank, in the ring, in front of everyone, in a raucous Barclays Center. Weed smoke going to be everywhere. I can't wait when Barclays Center gets back into the mix. I know you have a very, very close relationship with the Barclays Center where you won your first world title.
Yeah, I was main event there, I think 4 different times, won my world title there. It was one of the first boxing shows they had done in there. And it was one of the last boxing shows on HBO
Right.
Boxing.
You fought HBO, you fought PBC, right?
Yep, I fought HBO,
Khan?
Showtime, Spike. Yeah, Khan we fought on Spike TV. Yeah.
Wow. You might have like
yeah.
the Triple Crown, or you have to add like 4. So it was you fought when you fought on Star. Did you ever fight on ESPN?
Yep.
Augustus,
Main event
right?
ESPN. No, Emmanuel Taylor. Taylor was ESPN. That was Friday Night Fights.
Right. So ESPN.
And then HBO was the next one for Prabhakar.
Right.
And then HBO pay-per-view for Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
Then Khan was Spike TV.
I remember
that. Spence was Showtime, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then DAZN, I fought several times.
6.
I fought on Triller.
Oh, that's right. Your last fight.
Triller.
7.
Yeah. I fought on seven different networks and shows. Yeah, I've been around the block.
Damn, that's actually good. That just shows that you'll work with anyone. That's like the mentality we have with CompuBox. Like, we'll work with any network, we'll work with any platform. I mean, you've played the game correctly. I'm
a prize fighter, man. I fight. I get paid to fight. I don't care who's showing it. I don't care where it is. Just give me the money and point me at the guy. Let's go.
We'll tell even more stories later on about Pacquiao, Khan, which I thought you gave Khan
plenty.
You gave Khan.
I still think I won that fight, but that's neither here nor there.
I remember watching that. I forgot where I was. Somewhere I was like at a hotel bar and it was on, and I was like, "Damn, he's giving them issues in there." But we'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll have plenty to talk about in the next few months. So that's a heavyweight division. Yeah. We got Joyce and Parker on September 24th. Heavyweight division's moving finally. It was stale. We were waiting on a lot of things, waiting on Fury, Wilder. So now we're seeing like top 5 guys fight, top 7 guys fight. Parker, Joyce. I don't know where you have them. I have Joyce top 5. Parker right on the outside looking in. That's September 24th. That's good. So the heavyweight division's moving. That's the biggest thing in boxing. It'll always be the biggest thing in boxing. But Chris, we have a big fight coming up this weekend. Let's get into our fight previews. But first, I have to tell you about DraftKings Sportsbook. It's officially that time of the year. NFL season, baby. We just had our fantasy football draft. Me and Ronnie, Team JM, Hot Boys have the #1 ranked team. We got Jared Allen. We got Josh Allen. Who's Jared Allen? I'm not an NFL insider. He's a basketball player. We don't have him. We have a loaded team, but football season is here. DraftKings Sportsbook is your place, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers, all you have to do is bet $5 on any NFL wager, and you instantly receive $200 in free bets. That's right. DraftKings giving all new customers $200 in free bets. Same game parlays. I have my same game parlay coming up in just a bit. I think I'm going to win this week. I had a big week last weekend. It wasn't officially on the books. I think I'm 0 for 8, but I'm due. I am due. New customers bet $5 on NFL football wager, instantly receive $200 in free bets. DraftKings has so many ways to make watching sports fun. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code BOXING. Receive $200 in free bets instantly when placing a $5 wager. That's promo code BOXING at the DraftKings Sportsbook. So I'm going to give you my picks right now, and Chris, you can critique them. I have to do a same game parlay, and what I do is you take a look at the odds. You take a look at what makes sense. When you're doing a parlay, you're having fun. You're taking risks. You want to place bets where there are good odds and plus money. And there's no point of making a parlay if both bets are minus odds. I mean, that's not fun at all. So I am going to go with Michaela Mayer by decision. And you can get that at minus 190 right now on DraftKings. I will tell you why when we go through our picks. And then I am going by Savannah Marshall by decision. This is the juicy one. This is the juicy one, Chris. Plus 290. Plus 290. Like
calculated risk. I like it. Calculated risk.
Yeah, parlays are risky. Like, take a risk, but the odds on this are wild for this Shields Marshall card. It's plus money on every outcome. Shields by decision is plus 120. Will she get a decision in the UK? That's what came into my thinking.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Shields by KO. She only has 1 knockdown in her entire career, 0 knockouts. That's plus 700. A draw is interesting. 2-minute rounds, women's boxing, plus 1,200.
Even amount of rounds too. 10 round. Yeah.
10 rounds. 5-5. Boom. 290 plus 290 for Marshall by a decision, which I think is going to happen. And then Marshall by KO, and she hits hard. We're going to get into this.
She hits hard. Does hit hard. We're going to get into
275. You can get that. So like every outcome is plus money. I don't think I've seen that in a very long time. But that's the action this weekend over at DraftKings. Those are my picks. I'll have them out later in the week. Hopefully we get a winner and we can keep this hot streak going. Let's get into it, Chris. Let's talk about the co-main first. Michaela Mayer, Alicia Baumgardner. Man, these two don't like each other. This is like, we've seen a lot of fake bad blood. We've seen a lot of contrived stuff in our day in the boxing world. I'm sure you have tried to find ways to hate an opponent. You and Pacquiao were playing darts. You were playing pool. You guys were BFFs, I feel like, on your tour. But, oh, man, Baumgardner and Mayer hate each other. I mean, if you watched any of the buildup this week, it's like, that's the thing about women's boxing is they take it to another level when it comes to like the jealousy, when it comes to the contempt. That's a big storyline in this fight, but I also think that Mayer is just so much better than Alicia Baumgardner. She's just so much more experienced, an Olympian, can fight on the inside. I think that fight with Hamadou showed that she can rumble. She's long. She's got a really good jab, really good defense, great pedigree. I'm trying to find ways to see Baumgardner winning this fight outside of like landing the one big shot like she did with Terry Harper. I'll tell you what, I'm excited for this fight. It's going to be on ESPN Plus this Saturday afternoon. Mayer and Baumgardner. Love this fight. Yeah,
I wouldn't be as excited if they weren't like catfighting every chance they got. If there wasn't that I got to get the last word in every single time they're anywhere near each other, I would be less excited.
Did you see the handshake?
Yeah. Ooh.
Simple, like a handshake is like they're everything. It's like they're going everything.
And they're going to be like that in the beginning, at least the beginning of the fight. They're going to be tick for tat the whole way. They're not going to want to give up any ground. But I agree with you. I think Mayer is just a much better all-around fighter in terms of skill set, body types, boxing style, pedigree, experience. It's just going to be a matter of time. The more rounds that go on, I think Mayer's really going to take over. You know, she's a true boxer puncher. She fights great at length. She is that mid-range is she's deadly. She could fight in the inside, which we've seen, and the output. She's aggressive. She throws a lot of punches. She's coming forward. You know, she's active. Even not when she's not throwing punches, she's very active on her feet and her footwork. I think she's going to just be way too much for Baumgardner. But Baumgardner's tough and strong and has power, so I think it'll keep Michaela at least at bay somewhat, and that's why I think it'll end up being a decision for Mayer.
The one thing I love about women's boxing too is like these fights get made. There's zero marination. Like there isn't the biggest talent pool. There isn't enough time to marinate. So let's make the biggest fights now. Let's make Taylor Serrano now. That fight actually took a little bit to marinate, but let's make Mayer Baumgardner. I was shocked when they announced this fight because I thought for sure that Baumgardner was going to fight Choi or Mayer was going to fight Choi to get that third belt, to make this an undisputed fight, to make it even bigger. But kudos to Top Rank, kudos to Boxer, kudos to Sky. There's a lot of different cooks in the kitchen for promotion-wise for this doubleheader, for making this fight now. Like realizing that let's strike while the iron's hot. They've been talking a lot of trash on social media. It's a unification bout. It's going to be a great fight. So props to the powers that be. I think I'm not going to give a lot of props to promotional companies, but I'll give them props now because they made this fight. But to talk about Mayer's volume, 53 punches per round. That's 2-minute rounds. That's equivalent to like 75 to 80 in 3-minute rounds. That's number 3 among female fighters. Mayer lands 19 punches a round. That's number 2 among female fighters. Lands 47% of her power shots. That's number 1. Lands 36% of her total punches. That's number 1 among all women fighters. And she has a plus minus of 15.6. Plus minus is when you subtract your overall connect percentage from what your opponents land on you. Pretty much the name of the game. Hit and don't get hit. She does everything good in there. I just think she's better. I just want to see how Baumgardner handles this. What's Baumgardner's path to victory?
Baumgardner has that great overhand right. We saw that in Terry Harper fight. She fights well off her back foot. She creates that distance, moves backwards, doesn't throw a ton of punches, and she's looking to land that big power. She has a good sharp right hand that she throws over the jab. I've seen that in several of her fights, and she was able to hurt Terry Harper and get her out of there. I think she's going to look through the same thing, because if she goes punch for punch with Mayer, she's just not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, she's got that big overhand right. I mean, that was a huge shot. That was like a oh shit moment. I was watching that fight, and I knew about Baumgardner on the scene. Like, she has made under 10 fights. Like, she not really promoted well, and they pretty much brought her in there. Harper was coming off a long layoff, a world champ, and like, let's bring in Baumgardner. Probably came in on the cheap, and she'll give solid rounds to Harper. Did not think she was going to go in there and starch her on her feet, standing up. That was like one of the best knockouts we saw last year, regardless of gender. And that's the one thing about women's boxing, and we hear it from the detractors, is there's not enough knockouts. There's not enough of these moments where fans want to see knockouts. You go to a baseball game, you want to see home runs. You go to a football game, you want to see big hits. Fans want to see knockouts. That's the one thing with Baumgardner. If she can figure out how to land, and she can, I don't think it's going to happen, but if she can land one of those huge shots and stagger Mayer, knock out Mayer, then we have a megastar in boxing.
Oh yeah, forget it. That would transcend male female. That would be a huge, huge upset. I agree. I don't really see it happening. I think that Mayer is too smart, too long, boxes too well. Mayer's big for the weight class too, so Baumgardner's gonna have to deal with that. Even though she may have a power advantage, I don't think she has a size advantage. Mayer isn't a big puncher in terms of knockouts, but she's physically very strong. So it's an uphill battle for Baumgardner to find a way to win.
Yeah, I don't know where Mayer goes from, if she wins, where she goes from here. I know she's talking about moving up. She's
going up.
She's a big girl. Definitely going up. If she goes up to 135, there are huge fights for her waiting there. Amanda Serrano. If Serrano moves back up to 135, Katie Taylor. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of women's boxing, I feel like, is on the rise. The talent pool is getting bigger. We're able to make lists. I'm going to give you my top 5 women boxers right now. Coming in at number 5, I have Seniesa Estrada. I think she's a star. Lower weight, I think she's like 108 or even lower than that. Throws a lot of punches, knockout power, great smile, marketable, great on the mic too. I think she can be a star. Now she's signed with Top Rank too. I think that's huge.
Just saw that. That's huge.
That's massive. That's a big one, because Top Rank has shown that they will make fights with Matchroom. They'll make fights with the other companies. Just look at this weekend. That's a Top Rank. She'll be on ESPN too, which is great for her. Number 4, I have Michaela Mayer. Like we said, I gave you all her numbers. Throws a ton of punches. Highly accurate, tall, rangy, good defense, pedigree, Olympian. Walks the walk, talks the talk, has the looks, love it. Has the look of a champ, and Michaela Mayer I have number 4. Number 3, Claressa Shields. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt here on just being absolutely dominant. Outlanded her opponents, I think, her entire career. Never been outlanded as a pro, which I think is just absurd. We know all of her accolades, undisputed at multiple weight classes, 2-time gold medal Olympian. Have her at number 3. Number 2 and number 1 was the fight we saw this past year at Madison Square Garden. I got Amanda Serrano, number 2. The definition of pound for pound, Chris. Going up in weight, fighting at 118, fighting at 126, fighting at 135, and nearly knocking out Katie Taylor. You can make a case that Serrano won that fight. She's number 2 on my list, and number 1, I think, is the best women boxer right now, obviously, because I have her number 1. Katie Taylor, the pride of Ireland, just so resilient. So many moments in that fight with Serrano, I thought she was out, and she found a way to win. All she knows is how to win. Like a star soccer player, was like a hero, turned to boxing, has now become an Olympian, has now become pretty much the face of women's boxing. Huge fan base, throws a ton of punches, everything. Checks all the boxes, Katie Taylor. So that's my top 5, Chris. Estrada, Mayer, Shields, Serrano, Taylor. Give me yours.
Mine's a little different. So starting down at 5, I've actually got Jessica McCaskill at number 5, which was very close in my mind with Seniesa. So I was trying to figure out those two. But man, those wins over Breakhouse. Cecilia Breakhouse was so dominant for so long. She beat her twice. She's looked spectacular in her last couple of fights. I was very impressed with her last win. She's just a really tough, rough, powerful girl, and she makes exciting fights. Sometimes it's not always the prettiest, but I mean, she's a nightmare to fight. She would be very difficult for anybody to beat. So I got McCaskill at number 5. Number 4, I have Mayer, same as you. We've been speaking a lot about Michaela. I think she's a fantastic boxer puncher. She throws tons of punches. From her CompuBox accolades, should definitely be in the top 5. She's top 1 or 2 in most of those CompuBox numbers. Number 3, this is where we're going to get a little bit different, me and you. Number 3, I have Amanda Serrano. Like you said, she's been up and down the weight classes. She's been all over the board. We spoke about power in the women's division. Well, Amanda Serrano has it. She scores a ton of knockouts, more fights than not. She actually wins by KO. Has been doing it for a long time.
Hits like we've seen her in sparring, like knock guys out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've talked to sparring partners and they say, like, I've never been hit like that. Girls who are concussed after sparring for weeks afterwards. She has that power. She's got something different in her, man. She can really crack. We saw that against Katie Taylor, which that's not even really Serrano's weight class. And she was able to hurt her and almost get her out of there. Number 2, I've got Shields based on, she's undefeated. She, like you said, 2-time golden world Olympic gold medalist, undisputed in 2 different weight classes. She's a nightmare to fight. She's all over you. She's not a knockout puncher. She only has 2 knockouts in her 12 wins, but she lands tons of punches. She's all over girls. She really shuts people down. And then number 1, same as you, Katie Taylor. But those top 3, they're almost interchangeable. Katie and Amanda were razor thin in terms of who won that fight, but you just can't leave Shields out of there. And I'm sure so a lot of people are going to have Shields at number 1. But I've got it as at the top, Katie Taylor, number 2, Shields, number 3, Serrano, 4, Mayer, and then 5, Jessica McCaskill.
Good list. Like your list. That's the thing right now. Pretty much illustrates what I was just saying. Like women's boxing, we were putting together a list, and it's not like universal. There's interchangeable parts. Right. Like we don't even have Savannah Marshall in here. If she wins Shields, obviously she moves up to top 3. But I like that the Ring magazine that now has women's pound for pound list. So that's a big 15,
20 years ago, you couldn't even put a top 5 together. They're just, the talent pool wasn't there, and no one had seen them. So there was no way to watch them. Now there's so many platforms for the female fights, and they put on great shows. So the world is definitely changing in terms of female boxing.
Yeah, this is probably the best year in the history of women's boxing. If you figure in Taylor Serrano, which was a massive event, that was unbelievable. And then this doubleheader is huge. I was actually like, when I heard the announcement, I was like, oh man, I wish Baumgardner Meyer was its own main event, like in the US on ESPN, like get them on First Take, put them through the ESPN car wash, like get them out in front, because these are 2 marketable fights. This can really transcend women's boxing and push it forward. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Let's keep making these big events, like a double header with Shields, Marshall. It's all women's card. It makes sense, and it's going to sell really well over there. That's another thing. Like UK boxing fans are a little bit ahead of US in terms of like supporting women's boxing.
Absolutely.
That's a good top 5. We'll have that out later. Let's talk about Shields and Marshall. Main event. Another grudge match. Geez, these 2 don't like each other either. No love lost. There's this.
When is Shields not? Wait, hold on. Wait. When is Shields not in a grudge match? Everybody she fights, she tears into.
Yeah, we talked about Wilder maybe doesn't have that dog in him anymore. There is no denying. Claressa Shields has that dog in her. So does Savannah Marshall. Hits like a mule.
Yeah,
we'll get to her numbers too. But these 2 don't like each other. They have a history. There you go back all the way to 2012. The last fight that Claressa Shields ever lost, she was a teenager. We're talking about like the quarterfinals of the World Championships, where the judges score the fights based on punches landed from what they're seeing. It's antiquated. They don't even do that anymore. There's the Sky Sports posted the fight and they took it down because a lot of people think Shields won. But that's a big selling point in this fight. Shields has won on to win 68 straight fights. Olympic gold medals twice. She has not. I'll give you the stat right here, Chris. 101 rounds Claressa Shields has fought. She's outlanded her opponents in 99 of them. 99, wow. 1-1. She was only outlanded once, and that was to Hannah Gabriel's round 1 in 2018. That's the same fight that Gabriel's knocks Shields down in the 10th round. She won that fight. She's won every fight since that Marshall fight, which came so long ago. Do you think that should be like a talking point of this fight? I know it gets under Shields' skin whenever they bring it up. I think it's a great way to market the fight, because these fights can use all the marketing help they can have. But Marshall handing Shields the only loss of her career, even if it was in the amateurs, it still should it mean something?
Hell yeah, it does. Hell yeah, it does. I mean, you got to bring that up. It helps not only with the marketing, but also with the mind games leading up to it, which we've been hearing back and forth between the two of them. And, hey, listen, if someone's got a win over you, they got a win over you, no matter what. I mean, we as fighters are so damn competitive. If you beat me in basketball, I want to kick your ass. It's just, and I'm not going to forget it.
You'll fit in very well with this company then.
Yeah,
we have a lot of company. We have a whole warehouse built on that.
Well, I'm good at those. That was one thing. I beat Pacquiao in all the games we played except for the boxing game. But but yeah, no, absolutely, it matters. That competitiveness is there between the two of them. There's no love lost between the two. I think that makes this fight even that much more interesting. Like, I beat you before, so you can be beat, even though it was in the amateurs and very long ago, and she was like, a teenager. It still matters.
I think temperament plays a big role in this fight. I think Shields is very temperamental. We know this. She's passionate to a fault. And I think Marshall is very calm, cool, collected. And I think Marshall has gotten under Shields' skin left and right for a while now, because of going back to their first loss. Marshall likes to bring that up. Their last fight, when Marshall knocked out her opponent, they met, in the ring or outside the ring, and Marshall brought it up again, and Shields went off. She just lost her mind. I think that's going to play a big role in this fight, is who can control their emotions inside of the ring. Marshall hits like a tank. I mean, they're talking about, these are two opposites in terms of style here. Savannah Marshall has stopped her last 8 opponents. She throws 60 punches around, which is equivalent to 90 in 3-minute rounds. She throws the most jabs. She's second in jabs landed. She's highly accurate. And she has something that all fight fans love, and that's game-changing power. If she's able to land one of those shots on Shields, it's going to be very, very interesting in this fight.
Yeah, I think this fight has a lot to do with real estate. Savannah Marshall, she fights at a distance. I was watching her this morning, and she reminded me of the female version of George Foreman. Just very relaxed, letting her hands go, just waiting to drop that hammer, just waiting on that right hand, whether it's the overhand or she got a great right uppercut too. So her fighting at that mid-range, that longer range, where she's able to be loose and keep her arms moving and long, that's where her power really is. She's extremely dangerous. On the inside, the fast hands of Shields she's lightning. When she's in that range, she lets her hands go, head, body, nonstop punches. Doesn't matter if you hit her in the middle either. She punches right through it. She is extremely overwhelming on the inside. So depending on where the fight is fought, I think you can see 2 different fights.
Yeah, I'm so pumped for this fight. They're different in terms of opposition. I think that's no doubt that Shields has fought the better opposition. She's been a pro longer, has this unbelievable streak. I mean, obviously has never been outlanded in her career, but it's also come against good opponents. It's also come against better competition. I guess the knock on Marshall is that she hasn't fought the top competition, but you can't deny the power, and you can't deny the way she fights in there. I was watching some of her fights too. It's just a lot of fluidity. She's in there and she's putting out that jab and not really putting it out there to land, just constant movement. And that size, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really hard for Shields. But the thing is with this fight, and the reason why I'm picking Marshall by decision, is she can be able to get Claressa Shields is going to be able to get a decision in the UK, given the 2-minute rounds, given how close women boxing rounds go. We've seen it time and time again in these big women's fights with the 2-minute rounds. It's really hard to judge a 3-minute round. It's extremely hard to judge a 2-minute round. Is Shields going to do enough to win 6 rounds? Depending if she has a knockdown. She only has 1 knockdown in her career, so that's probably not going to happen. Can Shields do enough to win 6 rounds against Marshall? Do enough to differentiate herself? I just butchered that word. Be different in those rounds to beat Marshall.
Yes. I do. I think so. I know
you think Shields is going to win?
Yeah, I think Shields is going to win. I like how you're being very calculated about your prediction and being smart about it. Saying with the round, I still got Claressa Shields. She's just too overwhelming. She's smothering. She gets on you. If she doesn't want to give an inch, she's letting her hands go. I saw some things when I was watching tape earlier today about the footwork of Savannah Marshall. She can get tripped up at times. Her footwork is not as smooth. She can be a little heavy on her feet. And I think the speed and explosiveness of Shields, especially when she closes the gap, is going to give her a lot of trouble.
Do you think if Marshall's to win, how do you think it happens? Knockout?
I think she would have to drop her, hurt her, and then just consistently keep her at bay. It's hard to, you can never really call a knockout when you have someone like Savannah who can really punch and really end the fight anytime against anyone. It could absolutely happen, but I would see it more like her catching Shields early, hurting her, and then maybe stunning her several times throughout the fight and just keeping her at bay. Because if you let Shields get off, she's not going to stop. She is relentless when she starts getting her hands going. But unless Savannah can hurt her, I don't think she's gonna be able to stop it.
Wow. If Marshall's able to knock out Shields, the internet will break.
Right.
A lot of people do not like Shields, and I think she likes it that way. I've said in the past, like, she's got the formula down. It's like the Mayweather formula. It's like,
yeah, the heel. You got to be the heel.
People are tuning in when she should be a success story, considering where she came from and how dominant she is. But you have to figure out a way to make money in this business some way or another. You tune in to watch her lose. You tune in to watch her win. I mean, one way or another, you're tuning in. So that's a huge fight this weekend, doubleheader afternoon. I'm going to the Yankee game with my lady, and I said, listen, it's going to be a tough day for you if you're not, because we're going to the Yankee game and then we're rushing back to watch this doubleheader, and maybe she'll be into it because it's women's fighting, and maybe that's like a wrinkle. Like, girlfriend, maybe she'll want to watch.
That's a nice thought.
I was like, hey, I think I told her last night. I was like, hey, like, it's a women's fight, and there was zero reaction at all.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say this: the first fight she ever watched, Chris, was Lee Wood versus Mick Conlan.
Okay.
When Conlan flying out of the ring.
That's a hell of an entry into the sport. So that was good on you.
And she was like, "Are they all like this?" I was like, "They're never like this." Like,
no,
like Mick, like a fighter. It was like that was out of a movie. Like, Conlan was winning the whole fight. Last punch of the fight, he gets knocked out of the ring into his father's arms. I was like, "No, this doesn't happen often." But and then the next day, like, I'm pretty tight with Conlan, and he sent me like a voice note, and he sounded so down and out, and I think she was impressed by that. But we'll see. Well, I'm watching the fights regardless. I'll watch it on my phone if I have to, because it's on ESPN Plus. All right, we saved the best for last, Chris. Jake Paul. Jake Paul, Anderson Silva is happening October 29th. Are you giving Anderson Silva a shot in this fight?
A shot? I am predicting he is going to end the Jake Paul train. This is it. I'm telling you, that guy, I called the fight when Silva fought Chavez Jr. down in Guadalajara, Mexico. I mean, the guy's not good for an MMA fighter. He's a good boxer. He looks like a seasoned professional in there. Takes his time, knows his way around the ring, had defense, was rolling his shoulders, was picking his shots, and then he completely ices Tito Ortiz, puts him to sleep face down the next time he fights. I mean, the guy, he's starting to come into his own. I thought there was no way he was going to beat Chavez Jr. I was super impressed with his ring generalship, his savvy, his power, his durability. That was what I was worried about. Was he going to take the punch? Chavez Jr., say what you will about him, the guy could punch. He was strong. He was a great body puncher. He used to bust guys up in middleweight and super middleweight, but nothing. Silva took it, had no problem taking the shots, even to the body. Came back, was winning, out foxing him in every way. So I think Jake Paul, he's in way over his head. This is a big step up for him. And again, he's not fighting a true boxer yet. He's the only fighter boxer I've ever fought, who has been undefeated with 5 fights and never fought a boxer. But this is pretty damn close, and I think it's too big of an ask.
So the Jake Paul era comes to a close.
Over. Silva beats him, and then he can go make YouTube videos or whatever he does.
Well, why did he pick him then? Like, I say boxing.
He's old.
The video yesterday. He's old. He is 47. I mean, it's like the Coming to America scene. He's 147 years old. Like, I posted a bunch of stuff on Twitter, and I love posting stuff on Twitter about Jake Paul because nothing riles up or triggers middle-aged men more than Jake Paul in a boxing ring.
Middle-aged men are the guys responding?
Yes, people calling me names. I had to block. I don't block people. I blocked so many people this week simply by saying, like, this is a step up. This is a step up for Jake Paul, because that is saying that Anderson Silva is damn good at boxing. Also posted a video of Anderson Silva's highlights, and I said boxing ain't a hobby for Anderson Silva. Turned pro in 1998. Has a deep love for boxing.
Deep love.
When you were there in Mexico.
Yep.
Canelo was there. Afterwards, Canelo gives a handshake, like just so Canelo can put the dagger into Chavez even more. Like Chavez loses to an MMA guy who's 46 years old, and then Canelo goes in the ring and gives him a handshake. He loves boxing, Silva. Yeah. He just happened to turn to mixed martial arts and become arguably the greatest to ever do it over there. So this guy has the boxing pedigree. You can watch the highlight video. He has the movement in there. He also has been training in boxing for the last 3-4 years solely on that.
Yeah.
You can't say the same for Woodley. Cannot say the same for Ben Askren. Jeez. Nate Robinson, stop. So we have a guy.
Woodley was coming off the couch, and who's the wrestler?
Askren
had hip surgery. Like he had a replaced hip like 2 months before the fight.
That fight was a joke.
A joke.
Anderson Silva can move in there. Anderson Silva throws punches. Like threw 134 punches, Chris, in the last 2 rounds against Chavez. Yes, Chavez during the last 2 rounds was probably, conceding defeat, or he wasn't giving back much. Jake Paul has not seen volume. Woodley threw 20 punches around. You understand how bad that is? Like Jake Paul throws 20 punches around. That second Woodley fight was a bad watch. There's no doubt about it. He just happened, Jake Paul, to land that knockout punch, and that propelled him to where he is today, where he's calling the shots. But this is a step up. This is a step up. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that is Chavez Jr. better than Jake Paul right now in boxing terms?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Chavez Jr. was a legitimate good fighter. He was a world champion. I mean, he fought some of the best guys. He fought Sergio Martinez. The guy is for real. He could fight. His problems are outside of the ring, and that obviously that bleeds into the ring. But in terms of his skills and what he did in his career, he's a very good fighter. He's a top-notch fighter. And even when he fought Silva, other than completely gassing out, he didn't look bad. I gave him the first round. After that, he completely fell apart. But in terms of skill set and what he's done, I mean, you can't knock him for that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like people are just programmed to not give Jake Paul credit. Like, you got to give him credit for taking the fight. You got to give him. If you're picking Silva to win, that's a dangerous call. Like Jake Paul does not have to do this right now, because I've asked him this. I've said Conor McGregor is the payout for you. Like, you're not in boxing to become a world champion. You're not in boxing to build a legacy. You're in this sport because you want to make money. You figured out a way to enter a sport where you can maximize your popularity for one night. Where else can you do that in this world, but outside of like doing a concert or something where you're a one-man band? So Jake Paul has maximized his popularity and has entered the boxing world, which, as you know, has a very low entry point, and has found a way to work his way to the top. You almost have to respect it in a way. But I asked him, I said straight up, like, Conor McGregor is the payout for you. Like, that's the big one. Like, not Canelo, not Usman, not Nate Diaz. I mean, those, you can make a lot of money doing those fights too, but McGregor is the fight where you can make like 60, 70 million, something absurd. Like, so why is he taking on Anderson Silva? This is what I don't understand. Like, that's the other side of the coin, where this is where I get the haters. Wherever I post anything about Jake Paul, they say these fights are fixed. Silva's going to take a dive. They have an agreement where you can't knock him out. Like, that's nonsense. Nonsense.
Like I said earlier about us fighters being competitive, these guys are not doing that. Silva especially. Silva wants to win. Yeah, I spoke to Silva at the fighter meetings in Guadalajara, Mexico. I saw the way he was around fight time, around all the press. I mean, that guy he's trying to be something in boxing. Like, he's not just looking for a cash out. He loves this sport. He has a passion for it. There's no way he's taking a dive. He wants to fight. He wants to beat this kid.
I also asked Rockman Jr., and we could do a whole show on that saga. But I asked him straight up.
He's fighting Vitor Belfort, who trains in my gym down here in Florida. I see Vitor every day.
Is Vitor going to smoke him?
Vitor can box. Vitor is down here. He's sparring for real. He's in fantastic shape. Vitor is another MMA guy whose true passion is actually boxing. He was a great, he had great hands when he was first coming up, when he was known as like the Phenom, and came out. He was 19, 20 years old, blasting guys out with crazy hand speed. He has always loved boxing. He'll be the first one to tell you that. That's his first passion. He loves the fact that he's doing it now. So he's another one. He lives it. He's in the gym every day.
A lot of these guys, these MMA guys, love boxing because boxing was around first. Then they realized that, you know what, I get into MMA, and there's another avenue for my skills. But
I love boxing.
Yeah. Right. We were sort of kickboxing, right?
Yeah. So everyone was like, why didn't you? I wrestled, I kickboxed, and I ended up boxing as my
You ever
my
think about doing
true.
MMA?
No, never, not once. And because, like you just said, when we were growing up, there was no MMA. You know,
It was
I
like
was
underground
watching.
fights. Do you remember those? Like
Yeah,
you heard
no,
about like who was it? Frankie Edgar was like a legend in 06 or 05 before UFC was like anything,
yeah.
or like even earlier than that. I heard about these like legendary like fight club things. Our boy Ryan LaFlair would go to them.
Yeah.
That's what MMA was back then.
Yeah. I mean, I remember renting like UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, like 7 on, at Blockbuster Video, like on VHS. But no, when I was growing up, I was watching Oscar De La Hoya and Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson and hearing about Sugar Ray Leonard. There was no, Randy Couture was already, by the time he was a legend, I was already older. I didn't grow up watching MMA the way I watched boxing. So it was never a thought in my mind.
Yeah. We got off a little bit of a tangent there, but Rockman, what I asked Rockman was would you ever, there's people saying that you're going to throw this fight, and he brought up his dad fighting Holyfield when he got the hematoa on his head, and what his dad has given to the sport, and what in turn that's given him. He's someone that always had, his dad had money and he never had to worry about stuff, and I would never disrespect the sport. I get the same sense from Silva. Like, we'll never know if he would take a dive. Like, I hate that too in the boxing, these fans dive after like any fight where there's a knockout. Like Dillian White took a dive against Tyson Fury because he pushed him, he barely hit him. Like, I think Silva has too much pride. And
absolutely,
for him, this is like his Super Bowl, right? He's 47. He's not going to be a world champ. Same thing with Jake Paul, not going to be a world champ. So this is his Super Bowl. Had a pretty bad ending with the UFC. I think he lost like 7 of his last 8 fights. Didn't get that like Hollywood send off. This is it for him. He beats Jake Paul. He is a hero. He is legitimately a hero, and that's a very happy ending for Silva. So I don't think there's any of this like dive stuff.
No, I don't. I hate hearing that. Like you said, I mean, if a guy packs it in during a fight, it's not because he was paid to do so. It's probably because you're trying to protect his life. It's a very dangerous thing that we do. So that's definitely a fan speaking when they start saying stuff like that. You've never been in a life or death situation there, big guy. So don't talk about taking dives. But no, Rahman, same thing. That he's going out there. I truly believe Rahman thinks he's going to win this fight. And, for all intents and purposes, I think a lot of people do, but Vitor is training for real. So, we'll see. But I think those are real fights. And I don't think we're talking paydays and dives and, guys throwing fights.
Chris, we're going to get you on Twitter, and you're going to see a lot.
We're going to see the hate really pour out.
Like Homer Simpson dad meme where he enters the bar, then leaves automatically. That might be your Twitter experience. You might log on, like fire off a few takes and like your opinions on the fights, and then you just see some of the comments are so annoying. But I've figured out a way to just like tune them out. I actually enjoy social media. But
we're gonna clip out me saying that the end of the Jake Paul train. We'll put that out.
100%. Ronnie,
we'll see that.
Producer Ronnie, we're gonna have to clip that out. That's gonna be your first clip from this show. Is the Jake Paul era ends, and you get people love then because people want to see him knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, listen. At the end of the day, we're all just pundits, and you and I are just talking about what we think's gonna happen. But man, I truly believe that one.
I'm a pundit. You're a former world champion.
Man, I'm turning into a pundit.
You're a media guy now. You're a media.
Yeah, movement. I know. It's wild. It's wild.
Did you ever, like you said, you wanted to do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been doing this since I was a kid. Like, I remember sitting on my floor because I was the only one in my house who ever trained. So, like, I could see things when I was, 13, 14 years old that other people couldn't. So everyone in my family was always asking me, like, what's this guy doing there? What's going on? And I would talk about it. And I've been doing it in bars and restaurants, whatever there's fights on them. I can't not rattle off what's going on. It's just, that's in me.
You call the heavyweight championship of the world.
Then I call the heavyweight championship of the world. That was a feather. That's a feather in the cap. Corey's the man. Corey's
the best. You can see him in
great broadcaster.
All right, that's it, man. I have one last story for you. We're gonna end on a funny note. I think you like this too, Ronnie. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship held their 3rd event in Thailand and provided fans with an interesting moment. What is her name? Ty Emery.
Oh, I
It didn't last long. Emery landed a clean uppercut hook combo, put her opponent away in just 141. That's when things took a turn, Chris. Emery took off to celebrate the victory. You've seen this are they in a ring? And yeah, they're in a ring in bare knuckle. In MMA, they go to they jump on top. They, say what's up. Yeah, I won. They jump on top turnbuckle. That wasn't good enough for Emery. She took her top off, flashed the crowd. But there's more to this story. She has an OnlyFans. Brilliant.
Brilliant, right?
Her OnlyFans has shot up. Like, she's getting the most downloads ever after that moment. Brilliant move.
Good for her. Smart.
Is that all you have to add?
No. I got a lot to add. That not only is that brilliant for her own marketing and OnlyFans, but I think it's going to help bare knuckle. Like, I might actually watch those fights now.
Bare knuckle's pretty crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. It's hard to watch for me a lot of times. Like, they're just killing each other, bleeding all over the place.
The fights don't really last long. Like, we do the stats for them, and like Knuckle Mania was pretty cool. Like, Shaq is invested, and they have the 2-minute rounds. They start in the middle of the ring. And I was like, damn, like, this is going to be
that's the toe the line one, right? Like, toe the line, and like, they start right in the middle.
Yeah. I was like, this is going to be a sport of the future. I was like, I bought in heavy.
Have you seen the triangle combat one where they fight in the triangle where there's literally nowhere to go?
Yeah, I think that's a gimmick. I think that's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't want to see you in the triangle, right?
No, I'm not doing any of that shit.
But yeah, Emery goes in there, and in the past, she said that she wants to bring a new movement to the combat sports world. That movement is titties and violence.
That's a t-shirt. That's a whole brand. Really
Shout
smart.
Out. Oh, and Kendra Lust, who is a big boxing fan.
Big boxing fan. Yeah. I know Kendra Lust.
She sponsored her. This is why I sponsored her. Love it. So happy for you. She put in the work, and it's been waiting for a long time for this to happen. So maybe we see more of that. Hopefully not this weekend. This is a real women's fights this weekend. So that's the latest from the wild world of BKFC. That's show number 1 in the books, Chris. Was it everything you dreamed of? You're now a podcaster. You're now a John Boy Media employee. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love talking boxing, and then anytime you and I get to chat about what we love, it's always a good time. So looking forward to doing a lot more. Hopefully
we see each other in Vegas. We have to finalize our plans. As of now, we're heading out to Las Vegas to cover Triple G and Canelo. Gonna have a lot of content coming your way from Las Vegas. Producer Ronnie, who is here in the room, it's his first time in Las Vegas. His eyes are widening right now. I don't think his mic is set up. We're gonna show him the Vegas ropes. Is the mic on?
Yeah, let's hope he survives this first one. First one's the toughest.
Ronnie?
Check.
Oh, here's Mr. Ronnie.
There he is.
Ronnie, what are you trying to accomplish in Las Vegas, besides like obviously work stuff, because our bosses are in the next room?
I'm planning on going to sleep at 8 p.m. every night.
Lies.
Straight work, no pleasure. I'm here to do the job.
I love that. You're not gonna go check out the fountains. You're not gonna go check out the strip. You're not gonna get one of those like 3-yard like margaritas. You're gonna end up at like off the strip at like Doug from Hangover.
That will be a game time decision.
Mr. Ronnie, always producing for us. Chris, great times. See you out in the desert. You're now officially a podcaster.
Booyah. That's it. All right. This is I like this role. You said I wear a lot of hats. Here's another good hat.
Love it. See you guys next time.